The city of Milwaukee is the home of first and oldest choice program. You have the school choice program in Milwaukee is the oldest in the whole nation. In Milwaukee, which has been run by Democrats for over half a century, it's incredible. Families are faced with one of the worst public school systems in the entire country, considered pretty much the worst, but there are some others that are right there with you, I guarantee you that. Only 16% of Milwaukee public school students are reading at grade level, and only 10% can do math at grade level. So you're talking about 16% and 10% can basically read or do math. School choice gives Milwaukee children a lifeline to a better education. 8th grade students in Milwaukee and in Milwaukee schools, choice programs are more than twice as likely to be proficient or advanced in math. And that's good, but you know, when you say we're going to double up from 16% or double up from 10%, it's not really great, is it? And we're going to outsource and outscore other public school districts. So they want to start off by competing against certain public school districts, and I guess that's a good place to start. But it's they got to straighten out the schools in this country. Schools are really bad. And I think we're going to be able to do that. I think we're going to be able to do a lot of it. But if they're run by the state and run by like the parents, because in Washington, you know, half of the buildings, such a large number, every building you pass in Washington says Department of Education. You're going to have a lot of it like vacant space. Now we can have somebody else maybe move in. But these schools, it's massive. It's massive. I figure we'll have like one person plus a secretary. You'll have a secretary to secretary. We'll have one person plus a secretary, and all the person has to do is, are you teaching English? Are you teaching arithmetic? What are you doing? Reading, writing, and arithmetic. And are you not teaching woke? Not teaching woke is a very big factor. But we'll have a very small staff. We can occupy that staff right in this room, actually. I think this room is too large. And all they're going to do is they're going to see that the basics are taken care of. You know, we don't want to have somebody get crazy and start teaching a language that we don't want them to teach. But we'll do something with education. I think when we move it into the local districts. But the big thing is we're going to take it all out of Washington. We're going to send it all back to the states. We're going to spend less than half. And we're going to have much better education. But in many states, you will be the equivalent. I mean, you have states that are incredible. And in many states, you'll be the equivalent of a top 3, top 4 school, like in Norway or a Sweden is very strongly thought of, too. Although lately they've had some problems, you know all about that. If you want a better education for your child, Kamala Harris stands in your way. Kamala and the radical left Democrat Party want to keep Black and Hispanic children trapped in family government. I mean, I think that's really the reason. It's all Democrat we're talking about. You know, of the top 25 dangerous cities, virtually every single one of them is a Democrat-run city. So I think there'll be a lot of changes made. I really do. I just can't believe people can continue to go for this. But by contrast, I believe that school choice is the civil rights issue of our time. A child's fate should be determined by it has to be determined by their love of education, by their parents, by so many factors, but it can't be determined by a zip code, and no parent should be forced to send their child to a failing government-run school. I mean, in all fairness, they get into these schools, they're so bad. You don't give them a chance. We spend more money on education than any other country in the world. And I said before, much more money per pupil. We're number 1 on every list. And yet our public schools get worse, and the results get worse, and it goes just so horrible to see it. I mean, think of it. They graduate from public school, and they can't read. They can't write. This is people that actually literally graduate, can barely read or write. Wisconsin private schools receive nearly $3,000 less per student per year through the school choice programs than public schools, yet they achieve far better outcomes. A great job they've done, actually. Even as they fail to educate our youth, our opponents are using government schools to indoctrinate children, pushing radical transgender ideology on children. and changing the child's gender without even parental consent. Can you imagine that? Your child leaves for school and comes home and their gender has been changed. I don't want to get into the details, but it's not even believable. Without parental consent. All of that's changing. It's changing immediately. One of the things I wanted to mention with all of the people coming in, they're taking black and Hispanic jobs. The black population, their unemployment is way up over the last few months, and the fake news isn't reporting it. And the reason they're way up is the illegal migrants are taking the black population's jobs and the Hispanic population's jobs. And that's not fair. That's not a good thing. But that's what's happening. They come in, and many of these people, again, and many of them aren't. Many of them are criminals. Many of them are people that have murdered people we just don't know about. We know nothing about these people because they came in, they didn't have to report, they didn't have to give a piece of paper. I had Remain in Mexico, very strong. The president of Mexico approved it. I said, look, you're going to have to approve it. He said, I won't approve that. Why would I approve that? Why, am I stupid? I said, no, you're not stupid. You're very smart. That's our problem. You're too smart. He said, but you're going to approve it. And he said, why would I do that? I said, because if you don't, I'm going to put 100% tariffs on your cars coming in, and we're going to make a fortune. He said, like you said, I will approve it. Took me about 2 minutes. But that is one more reason why I'll fight for the right of every parent to send their child to a public, private, charter, or religious school of their choice. We have to be able to have school choice. School choice is very important. And the Democrats are very much opposed to it, as you know. And I have great faith in teachers. You know, I don't care if they're union or non-union. I have great respect for teachers. I've had some teachers that were so good, had a lot to do with my life. Now, some people would say they did a really bad job with him, and that's possible. That's possible. But no, they had a lot to do with me. I will tell you, I have great respect for teachers at a level that few people would understand. We want federal education dollars to follow the student rather than propping up a bloated and radical bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., which is what we're doing now ultimately. We want to close the Federal Department of Education, and we're going to do that, and we're going to move it all back into our states. And as I said, some states are going to be unbelievable, and some states are not going to do a good job. The ones that aren't going to do a good job are the ones that aren't doing a good job now and everything else.